know, I worked with Jay for quite a few years in a previous life. He's an amazing chef, and I'm really excited to get to learn and have you guys learn from him today. As he said, he owns Red Barn Catering. I'm just going to turn it over to him. He can tell you more about himself and his background. If you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the questions or type them in the chat. And I will be monitoring that, and I will happily interrupt Jay and ask if you're not comfortable doing it. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Jay.
All right, so this is my kitchen in Spring Green for Red Barn Catering. I got everything ready for a full season last year, which obviously unexpectedly did not happen, but we are ready to go this year. I've been doing a lot of cooking classes out of this kitchen, and I'm looking forward to actually cooking food for some of you people in the near future, rather than just doing these classes. So, yeah, like Melissa said, I worked with her for many years while she was programming all sorts of fun events, and I was cooking for the events that she was programming. So it's great to be working back with Melissa again. I was very happy that she approached me and asked me to do something fun for you guys. So today we will be making the Cardamom Dutch Babies along with a blueberry lavender compote. So hopefully you've got everything all measured out, ready to go. And if you do, most of the work is already done. This is going to go together real quick. Basically, the way the class is going to go is we're going to make our Dutch babies, get everything thrown together, get those put into the oven. While those are cooking, we're going to make our blueberry compote, lavender blueberry compote. And everything should be done about the same time, and then we'll be able to put it together and enjoy. Cardamom is one of my all-time favorite flavors. It's got just that wonderful combination, earthy orange without, a citrus note to it. It's just really a great flavor, and until vanilla skyrocketed, it is actually the second most expensive spice in the world after saffron. But of course, now vanilla's way up there, so cardamom got moved down to number 3. But luckily, it's still completely affordable, and you don't need a whole lot to really make something great. I played with this recipe a little bit just to try to get as much cardamom in this as I could without it being overwhelming, because I really wanted you to get that full aroma and flavor from it. Likewise with the lavender, you may have looked at it and said it's only a 1/4 teaspoon. That's really not much lavender, but it is a very strong flavor. You want to really enjoy that floral flavor that you get from it without having it be so much that it'll taste like soap or something like that. People use lavender in body washes and lotions and stuff like that. You don't want to get that association with it. So you want it to be those nice floral notes without being overwhelming. And I think I really did a great job of getting those flavors balanced out for you. So for starters, we can just, hopefully your oven is preheated. If it's not, you're going to want to get on that right away, because the first thing we're going to do is just get our cast iron right into the oven, let that heat up, and just the amount of time that takes to heat up, we're going to get our batter mixed up for it, and we'll be ready to go. If you've ever actually looked at a recipe for Dutch babies, it's always very specific as far as, you need like a 10-inch skillet. It's got to be a 10-inch skillet. Well, I mean, ideally, yeah. I'm actually going to be making 2 at the same time today, one in a 10-inch skillet and one in a 9-inch skillet. And basically you're going to get a little more poof. The 9-inch skillet one may be a little taller, a little fun, but I always like things when I'm teaching a class. I want things for me to be just a little bit harder than it is for you guys. Just to make it seem easier for you guys. Things will go better for you. It'll go well for all of us. I do have these convection ovens right here, so I would be able to see it. But that would be too easy for me, and you guys, I'm sure, not everybody's going to have a convection oven at home. So I'm going to be using these solid door base ovens here, which is, I haven't actually used these for making a Dutch baby before. I do like to rely on peeking in through the window so I can see exactly when it's right where I want it to be. I won't have that luxury today, but I'm sure you guys will. So without further ado, let's get cooking.
I'm going to ask you a question. Somebody said they don't have a cast iron skillet. What else will work?
I mean, really any heavy-ish dish. I've made very similar things, like toad in the hole, which is a kind of Yorkshire pudding kind of thing, but in a casserole. It's a similar type of thing where you pour in the batter into a preheated dish and it'll, poof up and whatnot. I've done that in a Pyrex dish and just like a steel hotel pan kind of thing. I mean, really anything will work. As long as it's approximately the right size, it will work. The great thing about cast iron is it's going to heat up really well. It's going to hold that heat when you pour in the batter. It's not really going to cool down a lot. That being said, anything will work. Cast iron is just the ideal vessel that you'd want to use. So as long as it's oven safe, by all means, make sure it's oven safe. And if you do use like a glass Pyrex dish, make sure that it is rated for extremely high temperatures. I know Pyrex is a great company. They make a great product, but not all of their dishes are rated for that high temp. As my sister actually once learned making a lasagna when it just cracked in the oven and was unfortunate. She asked me what she should do. I said, get a Pyrex. She said it was Pyrex. So be careful. Just make sure that whatever it is can take the heat and ideally is heavy. Just make sure it's the right size.
Somebody just asked, will 8-inch work?
Let's find out.
Good answer. Deanna, let us know if an 8-inch works.
I would say use an 8-inch. When we pour in the batter, I'm going to use a spatula to just quick squeegee out all the batter. If you're using an 8-inch, I would say just don't squeegee out every last bit. Maybe leave just make it easier so you don't like make less. Just make the batter as we're going along, just the same. Just maybe leave just a little bit, not much, just a little bit in that pan. You will get some extra poof to it, but it'll still work.
All right. Deanna says, great idea. So there we go.
When you ask questions, you may notice that my answers are seldom short. I am not short on words. All right. As you can see right here, I've got another camera. I'm going to switch the view to down now, just so you guys can see, mix in what's going on here. And like I said, the first thing we're going to do is take our cast iron and put them in the oven. Got my 10-inch, got my 9-inch. Let's get them hot. And 6 minutes. My multi-timer there runs on 9-volt batteries. It is just starting to get low, so hopefully it'll get us through the class and I won't lose my time. Otherwise, I'm watching that clock. All right, switching views now. So the first thing that we're going to start with is our eggs. Everything should be room temperature. That's really going to help make sure we don't lose any heat when you pour everything in. So just beat our eggs real well. Unless you're making bread or something like that, it's always a good idea to start with your liquid ingredients and then add the dry ingredients to it. It just makes it a lot easier to keep your lumps out. And with this batter, we definitely want to keep lumps out. Sometimes it matters more than others. In this case, we want a lump-free zone. There we go. Helps if I was a little more centered. So nice to sift things in. We got a 1/2 cup of flour. All-purpose flour will work, but the extra protein that's in bread flour will actually give us more rise, more poof. And that's one of the fun things about this, is that impressive poof and rise. I'm just using this whisk to kind of incorporate things real quick, but since I'm going to do 2, I'm going to use a whisk attachment for an immersion blender, just make it go quicker. All right, so we got a tablespoon of white sugar, a teaspoon of kosher salt. Of course, we do have the cardamom, and I'm gonna add in a pinch of nutmeg as well. But since this is a runnier batter, I actually like to add those in at the very end. I've done this before, and if you let it sit, even just for just a few minutes, since it's such a runny batter, those heavier spices will actually just sink right to the bottom and stick to the bowl, so you're not getting it all in there. And I realized I did forget to add my vanilla. Not a big deal to add it at this point. Just vanilla extract is fine. This is actually vanilla bean paste because I just recently ran out of extract. But I've got plenty of the paste. You can use it the exact same amount. This has actually vanilla bean in it. So I'm just going to mix this up until I get no lumps.
Hey, can you hear me over the mixer?
A little.
Have you ever tried making this with gluten-free flour?
I haven't, but I know it can be a lot trickier. I mean, you can do that and it will work. The thing is, you're just not going to get the same rise. I mean, when I say it'll work, it'll still taste really good, but you're just not going to get the same poof out of it. That's something it'd be worth. Ask the internet. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. Seeing how much time I had left there. Got to get moving a little bit on this.
Also wants to know why you sift everything.
It just helps keep the lumps out. What you can also do, you could really just throw all of this into a blender, and that would work just fine. I mean, I could even use the actual immersion blender attachment for this, but I use the whisk attachment so seldomly. I wanted to make sure it got some love. Yeah, we still got a minute and 30 seconds here. So yeah, as far as going gluten-free with it, I mean, I'd try to find a flour that has a little more protein and is made for baking. I'm sure a baking flour would be a better way to go. And maybe even adding, if not a whole extra egg, then maybe just an extra egg yolk would also help. But that's definitely something that, you can do it. You won't get the same rise, but it'll still be delicious. It'll still be that wonderful, delicious pancake. So we're all mixed up here. We've got everything in except for our cardamom and nutmeg. And of course, I didn't add the vanilla to that one. That would be a travesty.
So Rachel, I hope that answered your question. Some asked if the cardamom was in there yet, and it's not.
Yeah, the cardamom is not in there yet. When I've done this before, and again, with it being such a runny batter, if you add it in too soon, those heavier spices will just sink to the bottom and they'll just adhere to the walls of the bowl. So you'll pour it out and you'll just see all that wonderful flavor just stuck to the bottom. So, oh, that's fun. Yep, my timer is dying.
Of course it is. You want me to time for you, Jay? I can time.
Hey, you know what? That would be fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, how much time do you want? Just tell me.
So for right now, here, I'll let you know. So what we need to do at this point is take our hot cast iron here, and we are just going to throw in our softened butter in each one. Now, could you use less butter than this? Yeah, but I'm not gonna.
It's Wisconsin. You got to use butter.
That's right. This isn't a health food class. It's just food class. All right. If you want to start a timer for 1 minute.
I do. Somebody asked, they have cardamom pods. What's the best way to make them work for that?
I would say with the microplane would be the best thing to do there. So what I'm actually going to do here is I've got my cardamom for both of these ready to go. And when I do nutmeg, actually, I always do whole nutmeg just because I really love the fresh brightness, the flavor that you get from fresh nutmeg. It's not quite the same when you use pre-ground. I mean, this is obviously the one that I've been grinding on. You see that I actually really like that pattern in there. But just a little bit in there. And we're good to go. It's not a bad idea to check your oven at 45 seconds just to make sure your butter doesn't burn.
It's 1 minute exactly right now.
All right, perfect. Well, then I'm going to get that out. I'm going to dump these in and get them right back in the oven.
And I'm going to add a side note in as he does that. Make sure you use a pot holder when you grab your pans out of the oven. I have been that person that has grabbed it out not thinking.
So at this point, it is a good idea to just give it a little turn and just kind of coat the sides a little bit. And ideally, you are working very quick but carefully here. And we just go smack dab right in the middle. If you're not doing two at once, you can have a spatula in the other hand. And get that right back in the oven.
Susan says to people on their recipes, they can write step 5A, add the cardamom and the nutmeg to the batter.
Yes, actually, I did just notice that. I meant to mention that I was going through. I'd written the recipe and just, gave it a test run to make sure everything was good. That's when I was like, well, the cardamom and the nutmeg is going to kind of want to stick there, so to the bottom. So I took it off and I never added it back in. So, I like to do that in that minute that the butter is melting in the pan. Is at that point, throw it in, give it a real quick mix, especially easy if you're only doing one batch at a time. And then you can just, throw that right in at that point. Melissa, if I could get a timer for 20 minutes.
20, you got it.
All right. It's always kind of funny when you do two next to each other. It kind of creates, this different heat. When I'm expecting to see a little bit of lopsidedness in mine. When it's got perfect heat all the way around it, it really encourages a perfect upward growth all the way around. But when you've got two next to each other, it's a little different heat that they're kind of getting a little bit of coolness off of each other. So they usually kind of rise over on the outside a little more. Maybe it'll do a kind of funky, thing kind of coming up out of the middle of one. That's one of the great things about these is, it's very rewarding when you get that perfect rise all the way up around the entire side and everything is just perfectly even. But when it doesn't do that, it still looks really cool. So, either way, it's going to be a win-win. Let's check my oven temperature. At this point, we are going to make our blueberry lavender compote. So just to make things easier, I've got another stove here, and we are going to look back down again. Okay. So the first thing that we are going to want to do for this, I like to use a quart and a half. Just small saucepan is a good size for this. A 1 quart would work. Even just a more of a skillet type pan would work just fine as well. You just need to know that the more surface area you have, the faster it's going to cook and reduce sound for you. So if you're not using this exact size, if it's got a smaller diameter than 1.5 quart, it might take a little longer. If you're using something wider, then it will go quicker. So we're gonna split our blueberries. We need a total of 12 ounces. So I've got 6 here. And we're just gonna wanna give these a good smush. You can do this same recipe with frozen. It does still work. However, there's going to be a lot of juice in there from the being frozen, since obviously they'll have to be thawed for you to do this part. And I can tell you, all that extra juice as these things pop, it's a good idea to have a towel over it while you do this, because it's going to be sending purple just blobs everywhere. Make sure you've got an apron on, a shirt you don't like. It will work, it will be delicious, but you will be assaulted by purple. It's actually my new masher. It did have one of those old school potato mashers that was just, the one wire that just kind of like zigzags back and forth. But I had the one that I had at home, I had for so long that it was just starting to peel off that coating, which is obviously not good. I can tell you this one mashes way faster than that other one. Hoo-ah. All right, at this point, we want to turn this on, and we can get this, pretty high. We don't want to crank it all the way up, but let's say medium to medium high. And at this point, we will also want to add in our 3 tablespoons of sugar and our 1/4 teaspoon each of kosher salt and lavender. Now, the sugar and the salt, to a degree, is really going to help release the juices and everything. It's called maceration. It's going to macerate and really release all those juices really quick. Now, in both, as far as adding salt goes, I really like to add just a little bit of salt into my desserts and my dessert sauces. It really helps bring out the flavor more so. It's actually the way that like sugar, like in a lot of Chinese recipes, they add a little bit of sugar to help bring out the savory. It's really the same kind of idea. We're adding, sorry for that sound. We're adding a little bit of savory to bring out the sweet. Now you can see that already it's really released a whole lot of liquid. And at this point, we can add in the rest of our berries. As soon as this gets back up to a good rapid simmer to a boil, then we can reduce it to about a low, medium low. I'm good with that amount of bubbling. This already just smells so good, so floral. So today we are using dried flowers. There is also plenty of flavor in the leaves. If you've got a lavender bush, then, you can definitely use that. The thing when you're using dried versus fresh, you always need to use 3 times the amount more when using fresh. It's a combination of the flavors being more concentrated when dried, but also just losing all of that water weight. It just gets smaller. So you need to use more when you're going fresh. So I often have people ask, if I'm making lavender lemonade or something like that, you know, if they should be using, you know, dried flowers or fresh flowers or, you know, just the leaves. And it's, you know, the answer is, what do you got? You know, this is already looking wonderful, and you can keep an eye on the color of the spoon. It will come out, but I can tell you, this is going to get purple. And this is also going to be one of those hilariously wonderful sauces that will turn your tongue a wonderful shade of purple. The kids just love it.
One of the participants, Linda, said she made the compote part last night and she only used half the amount of sugar and said it was amazing. So that's a good tip too.
Sure. So one of the things with that is when you're making, like say one of the differences between like a sauce and a soup is, you know, a soup is, you know, it's ready to go, it's ready to eat just as is. But when you're making a sauce, I always like it to be a little more, you know, a little beefier, a little meatier as far as just the flavors go, because you're not just eating that as is. You're going to put it over something else. So it's going to, you know, kind of diminish the amount of flavor that it has as it spreads out over whatever you're putting it on. So if I'm making, you know, a garlic sauce, I want to taste it and be like, that's almost too much garlic. If I want a good flavorful garlic sauce, that's the flavor I want to come through. I want to taste just the sauce alone and feel like, you know, it's almost too garlic, because then by the time you put it on something, you know, it's not going to be so intense anymore. Likewise, with sugar, you know, you obviously, you know, I don't really like things that are overly sweet, but for a dessert sauce, I want it to be on the verge of too sweet. Another reason for this specific one, because, you know, I don't want it to be overly sweet, but, you know, once you put it on something, you're going to lose some of that sweetness as it spreads out. But also, one of the things we're going to be finishing it with is the lemon. And so not only are we going to get the some of the zest on there at the very end, again, it's going to be another boost of that like bright flavor from the orange, but also just the acid and the citrus is also going to kind of counteract some of the sweetness too. So, you know, not only do you get that great, you know, little bit of lemon flavor, we don't want it to be a lemon flavored sauce, but just giving that brightness from it. You got the sour here, the sweet there, you know, you get a little bit of that sweet sour battle going on in there, and your tongue is really just going to love those flavors as they come together. So I really love using citrus to finish a wide variety of fruit sauces. I think that's something that is really good for people to think about. If you're doing a strawberry sauce or, you know, something like this, a citrus really goes a long way in making it good. And I actually like using the raspberry liqueur when I'm doing something with like cherries or something like that. It's really good. I actually usually like to bring cherries into a less of a bright flavor. I usually try to get those into a darker level and bring up the flavor that way. And of course, this being a compote, two important things. What makes a compote? The two important things are, one, it is a fruit sauce, basically, is its basic translation. And two, is fancy. So if you just say, you know, blueberry sauce, be like, well, that sounds very nice. But if you say blueberry compote, suddenly it's, ooh, doesn't that sound fancy? I would love to try this. You know, I've never made a compote. It's like, well, you probably have. You just called it a fruit sauce. But, you know, technically, it's a fruit compote. Also, it sounds fancy. So if we look back down at this now, I just turned the heat off. And you can see it is looking nice and thick. So as you drag through, you get just that little bit of a trail behind it. You know, we could go a little bit more. Something like this. That's how you can tell when it's done. If you drag a spoon through and you get a trail behind it, then you know it's thick enough. This is right on the edge. Melissa, where are we on that 20-minute timer?
8 minutes, 30 seconds left.
All right. Well, given that, since we could get this a little thicker, I'm going to give it just a little bit more, because why not? At this point, since with the amount of, it's got the sugar in there, and of course there are just the natural sugars in the blueberries. We want to keep an eye on it. We'll want to stir it as it goes because it will be, more likely to burn at this point. But we'll be careful, and it'll be fine. And note on adding the lemon and the zest. A lot of recipes, they drive me nuts because it'll say right away at the beginning, add in lemon and lemon zest. And it's like, to a point, you can kind of add just the lemon juice at that point. But, definitely not the zest. One of the things that make the zest so wonderful is these volatile oils that are in the rind, just on that very outside. And it's such a wonderful, bright taste. But if you cook it even just a little bit, you really lose it. You may, still have some of that lemon flavor, but it's going to be very subdued and just kind of flat. But, with this, we're going to add it in, not only just at the end, but we're going to take it off the heat and let it sit for a minute. And then we're going to add it. And then it's really going to retain just that brightness. It's, again, we're not putting in a whole lot because we don't want it to be, tasting the lemon, but we want it to help elevate the dish into something that just has, that little bit of acidity to counteract a little bit of sugar that's in there. And of course that zest just adding to the lavender and that bright floral taste, since we're really getting the great lavender flavor from this, but also, we're losing some of the brightness by cooking it, even just this little bit. So we want to add that back with the zest.
Okay, I have an immediate question for you.
Yes.
The Dutch baby rose into the above oven rack. Oops, will it mess it up if I open the oven now to remove the rack?
I would recommend opening your oven now and, and yes, getting that off of there.
Good poof though, Deanna.
Yeah, great poof. I guess just the way I usually keep my oven racks at home. I usually have one lower and one about mid-height. And so I usually just cook on the mid-height without anything above it. That is something that I had not considered.
See, we all learned something today. Thanks, Deanna.
Hurrah for knowledge's sake, and poofy Dutch babies. And I would love to know why it's called a Dutch baby. There's so many names of food that just really make you go, huh. Yeah, I don't see it, but okay.
As a librarian, I feel like I should be able to figure that out. It might become my mission today.
Get back to us on that. Tell me, I want to know about Dutch babies and spotted dick. Those are the two things that I just want to know.
Excellent questions.
Yeah. The things that keep me up.
Oh, Deanna, the person the poofy Dutch baby said the edges rose really high, but not the middle.
Yes, the middle will not. That is
right.
The sides are just going to go like poof. Like the whole thing all the way around is only going to be about like yay thick. No, so it's another thing that is called is like a Dutch pancake kind of thing. So it's going to be that thin, like it's going to be that thick on the bottom, and the sides are just going to go like woof. But yeah, so it's not like a souffle where the entire thing is going to rise. You're just going to get on the outside, just going to go woof, and that's why we're going to put the sauce into the middle. It's going to be a wonderful little vessel for that.
All right, Rachel, do you want to? Jay, can you? I don't know if you can see. Somebody wants to know if theirs is done. The Dutch baby. Rachel, do you want to show it? I don't know. Jay, can you see if you switch your view? Hold on, Rachel. Or maybe the community can answer if they can see it. I don't know because I'm not a cook.
I'm looking. Oh, there we go. And yeah, that looks pretty good. I'd say put it back in the oven for 300 for another 5 minutes, and then you should be good.
All right, perfect. Other question. Oh, Caitlin says, my husband is Dutch, so this has been endless entertainment for the name. And Linda said, I read the history of the name. It was a mispronunciation of Deutsch baby since it originated in Germany.
Oh, cool.
So there we go. We learned something. Again, more learning. I love library programs.
So yes, as you can see now, we've gotten a little thicker here. It's really keeping that line very nicely.
You have 3 minutes left, Jay, on your timer.
All right. Just gonna move this out of the way now.
Ingrid, that's a good question. The baby part, yeah, we'll see. It's a good. Oh, 3 small ones were served together, little babies. See, food history is fascinating.
Okay. So at this point, I did just give a real quick peek. I'm not sure if you guys can see what's going on in there. You can see a little bit. I'm going to knock down the heat at this point a little bit. Melissa, you want to give me another 5 minutes on the timer? Reset it to 5 minutes. I think the one in my 9-inch pan is probably done. And yeah, we'll do. At this point, it's probably a good idea, check it. If it's starting to look like it's pretty close to done, knock your temperature down to 300. Give it another 5 minutes. It should be good.
We can see in there. That's nice. Look. Oh, look at that.
So, as you can see, that this one actually did poof up in the middle quite a bit. Again, this is the 9-inch, so it's smaller than the recommended 10. But as you can see, it's still food. It still is absolutely a gorgeous, just wonky looking thing. As this cools, you can see it's already starting to collapse down into itself. There's all sorts of like air pocket and everything under here that has been filling with steam and lifting it up. So it is going to collapse as it goes. And you can see all those glistening little butter pockets that are in there. A lot of the butter has cooked itself into the dough. And others is just sitting right on top, just basting it. I mean, at this point, I like to give this another, like 5 minutes or so just to cool. And I mean, it's good to go.
I have one more comment on the name, which I'm going to go with, even if it's not true. Kelly says, I was imagining it was like a baby, like a bun in the oven. It grew in the oven. And I'm just going to say that that's it, because I think that's perfect.
I'm good with that. All right, I'm going to do our lemon zest and juice now. You may have noticed before, I had my black-handled microplane that I was using for my nutmeg. That's this one, since I use it for seeds, nutmeg, stuff like that, because of course they are harder, they're going to be a little more abusive to our microplane. I always have another one with an orange handle, and this is the one that I use for citrus and really soft things, ginger, things like that, aren't going to be so mean to it. So this one will last much longer. I'll have to replace the other one more as needed. But, if they're like, what, $12 at the Wisconsin Cutlery down there on University. So at least it was the last time I was in a store. But, cheap enough. Why not have two? So, going to very carefully measure. Not really. A little bit of zest. And if you've got your strainer handy, I mean, there's no seeds there, so I guess I really don't need to. But if there might be some seeds, you can just do it over a strainer, or even just right into your hand and kind of catch the seeds that way. But that, the smell of that lavender just gets you. So then you can see, maybe I'll change views here to double up my gnat rag here. You can see it has collapsed quite a bit, but it still has a nice poof to it. And Melissa, how are we on time on that other one? I'm going to say probably pretty close.
1 minute, 1 minute and 5 seconds.
Ooh. This one looks a lot prettier.
Oh, yeah. While you're waiting, here's an answer for your spotted dick. Spotted refers to the currants in the mix, and dick derived from the word for dough. Thanks, Susan.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much. I knew it had to be something in the translation. I didn't think that just weird. Well, I mean, never mind. Maybe I do, but that aside, so I am going to. All right. As I had said before, I was going to stain your spoon quite a wonderful color. Good time to just check your work. It's great. Obviously, at first you get the blueberry.
Timer. Sorry.
You get the blueberry, and then the lemon follows up right after that. The heat will tame the lemon a little bit. Yeah. One little taste, I'm already purple. Oh, but that lavender just really comes up. Falls there. So there we go.
Nice.
See? We got our fun, funky one. And this is what you should get, depending. It doesn't matter how many times they make it. It's like, you get about a 75% success rate. It always kind of throws it off when you do 2 at a time. But look at that. A good poof. Let's look into this guy.
Somebody says theirs looks like a Star Wars ship, which I think is just fine too.
Absolutely. All right. So we've got this. We'll let it cool for just a minute. As far as serving, I like to you can either pour it right in and go from there. You can cut it. I actually asked somebody, I've got a group cooking in the drift list, and I asked people once, like, how do you get into yours? Do you just tear into it like an animal? Do you use a knife? I know some people said, grandma always used a pair of scissors. So, it all works. If you get it off the pan, it's not too hot. It's fun just to, sit around with the kids and just, tear at it and dip into some sauce, or, you can cut it with a knife or a scissors. I wouldn't recommend cutting and taking a knife and cutting directly into the pan, of course. Bad for the pan, bad for the knife. But you can take it out and cut it that way. But yeah, scissors would definitely work great. You can sauce it first. You can put it on the plate, sauce it afterward. They actually work really well to actually put it on your plate, sauce it, and then just roll the thing up, and then just eat it like that as a nice little round. But they are real good. I'm just loving the smell coming up right now. Of course, cast iron, you want to make sure that you take care of it. If anybody has any questions about specifically how to care for cast iron, if you don't know, or how to save a cast iron pan, happy to help with those questions. But right now, I'm definitely gonna dig in here.
Man, I miss in-library cooking classes. This is where I would be running in.
Right?
Oh, I gotta look. So people are showing theirs now. So now I've got to see Peggy's. Let me see. I gotta turn on my different view here. Peggy, I don't see yours. Oh, Ying, nice. Oh, look at that. That's pretty perfect. Oh, Susan's, look at these. You guys are awesome chefs.
I love how
such
that nice-sided pan that it just followed right up the sides. I like
it.
Looking good, guys.
Oh, nice. You guys are awesome at cooking along. Kelly's eating, I see. How's it taste, Kelly? Thumbs up? Maybe you weren't actually tasting. Yep. So fun. Rachel, does it taste good? Thumbs up? Down? Hopefully good.
So I just realized, I look over, I'm like, where are my kitchen shears? Well, over here in the back room in the kitchen, Kelly's been using it as her grow room. She's got, I don't know, hundreds and probably thousands at this point of seedlings that have been growing. And of course, my kitchen shears keep getting used.
Of course they are.
And my regular scissors too. Like, yes, of course you can use the kitchen, but please put things back. Like, middle of a class going to grab my kitchen shears, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm playing the tear into it like an animal game today.
I like that it's actually Kelly. I mean, you could have blamed the kids, but nope, it's the wife.
Yeah, well, that's can I backtrack? Definitely not Kelly's fault at
No,
all.
never Kelly's fault.
Ooh, that's still warm. Woohoo!
Yeah. Use a pot holder.
All right. Well, see that great color, and you can see right in the middle here how light this is, where it lifted off. Got this wonderful golden crisp color there. You see it. Yeah, this is what the great part. You can see how right here, this part here, just completely lifted up. So at one point in the oven, this was just sticking straight up in there until it got so big that it just collapsed over on itself.
It looks amazing.
The professional tear into it. Now I'm going to put a rag on top of my computer mouse to switch views so I don't get a greasy mouse. The sentences you don't expect to say. I do not want a greasy mouse.
Somebody says completely unrelated. Sorry, as you're chewing. I'm sure it's amazing. It looks so good. Completely unrelated. Favorite pan for cooking eggs. Hers always stick. Scrambled eggs. Sorry, he can't answer. He's eating and dancing because it's so good.
Set this off to the side for a minute. Get back to you. So for scrambled eggs, I really like to have like a high carbon steel pan. Actually, it's kind of like cast iron, except it is thinner. But you need to kind of care for it like cast iron, so you kind of season it. The reason being, I like to cook my scrambled eggs really hot and fast using olive oil. The reason being is when you put it into a pan, a really hot pan that's got hot oil in it, it's just going to hit it. It's going to start cooking right away. It's going to introduce all of this air into it. It's going to give it a real good fluff. And 45 seconds to a minute, they're done. They're light. They're fluffy. Butter does have great flavor, but using butter, unless you're using ghee or clarified butter, there's water in the butter that has to cook off first. And so as long as you're seeing those bubbles in the butter, you're never going to be able to get really above that 212 degree boiling point because you've got water in there. But using an oil, you can just get right past that and get it good and hot. And I really just like the eggs being cooked just hot and fast that way. And of course, don't cook them until they're, you still want there to be a gloss over the eggs. They will continue to cook once they're out of the pan. So get them off the pan. Pardon. Oh, that's good. You want to get them out of the pan before they're fully cooked. Otherwise, they're going to be rubbery and overdone. You can, if I'm making an omelet or something like that, I do have a small non-stick omelet pan that I use because, it's a different kind of thing as far as, just not doing that hot fast. But one thing, when you've got sticking problems, it's tricky with eggs because they are definitely something that really enjoy sticking. Usually just a matter of letting it sit until it cooks. And then once it's fully cooked, then it'll release. That's generally the case, especially with like meat and things like that. But eggs, you want to keep them moving generally. Otherwise, if they just sit in one spot, they're going to burn. You don't want eggs to get that burn, that cook, fully cooked release kind of thing. By that point, you've burned your eggs, which is why really I recommend something that is nonstick for scrambled eggs. You don't want to get the vast majority of nonstick coatings out there to that high temperature that I like to cook eggs, which is why I like the carbon steel for doing that. It doesn't have any chemicals in it. It is just seasoned like cast iron. It does have that great nonstick to it. But then just having a nonstick, I don't like Teflon or anything like that, but there are alternatives to that you can do, omelets at lower temperatures where it doesn't get to that danger zone temperature. I told you my answers are generally not short.
I have another question. How is this different than a pop over?
So it's barely different than a popover. I mean, one thing, the key difference is, of course, it's not made in a popover pan. Those, they have, that specific shape, it's, kind of like a muffin tin, but also obviously not. So this is basically, like I equate it to being how like toad in the hole is like Yorkshire pudding, except for Yorkshire pudding is the individual and the toad in the hole is a casserole. It's like, well, the popover is a little single serving thing, and the Dutch baby is more of a casserole, make more at a time kind of thing. So, I mean, I can't say, I don't have the recipe for popovers memorized in my head, but I would certainly wager that it's going to be almost the same as it is for this. There's not going to be any leavening agent to it. You're going to want to heat up the pan first in the oven, get some melted fat, butter in there. When I'm making Yorkshire puddings or toad in the hole, something like that, then I often like to use bacon grease as the fat in there first. So if you're going to go, you can definitely do, this is a sweet Dutch baby. You can definitely do savory Dutch babies where, omit the sugar if you want, maybe just a tiny bit, but, you can also just completely omit it. And then, you can go bacon fat. I've done it with sugar, and I've made a candied pecan bacon with sauteed apples that went into it, and that was pretty fantastic. So, yeah, that was, I guess
awesome.
I've gone beyond.
That's okay.
That is
so people are saying really good things. I love the lemon zest and the compote at the end. It's so light and bright, and the flavors are great together. Another person's so delicious, and thanks for the detailed egg answer. So see. Does anybody else have questions? Jay cooks. So he used, where I met him was when I worked at Folklore Village. So he cooks food from around the world. So he's got answers for a lot of different things. If you're making something and you're really like, I wonder what about this? I just believe that Jay will know the answer.
I definitely wouldn't claim to know everything. That's one of the things I love about food, and just making all of this food from around the world is, I feel like every year, I learn more stuff every year, but the more you learn, the more you feel like you just don't know anything. So it's like, yeah, I can answer a lot of questions about food, but the more I learn, I'm just like in awe of all the other food that's out there. Just like I still have a lot to learn, but I have a very broad, eclectic knowledge of a lot of different foods. I can pick a continent and I can talk your ear off about it. Probably wouldn't be very good at Antarctica, but otherwise I would talk for a while.
Fair enough. What would you use as a topping for your savory Dutch baby besides bacon?
Yeah, so I mean, for that, you can really just go anywhere with it. From some sort of like biscuit, like a sausage gravy, like a white gravy, like you would do for biscuits. I mean, you can just do like a chuck roast with gravy kind of thing. Obviously, I would definitely recommend something that has some sort of sauce. Things with gravies are definitely good. That's why, even when I did some of that one with the apples and the candied bacon, it's all that sugar in there is going to give you plenty of room to, add, I added a little bit of orange juice and apple juice to that, and that all just like thickened up and it was a great sauce. But I mean, as far as savory goes, I mean, think, well, what would you want on toast or bread or any kind of starch that is something that is just, that wonderful umami, savory, saucy kind of thing. And it's like, well, you've just got a great, gorgeous pancake kind of thing here. I mean, one of my favorite simple things is just like an onion gravy, where you can just do it with either a vegetable stock, beef stock, chicken stock, and you just basically caramelize onions down almost as if you were going to make a French onion soup, and then just, add some flour to make it a roux, add in your hot stock and let it thicken up. You finish it with, I definitely love cooking with alcohol a lot. All those fermented flavors really, have such a great base. They'll change all the other compounds in the dish when you add alcohol. I always cook it off so you're not actually tasting anything that's going to make you like, that's booze. You cook all the alcohol out of it, but really adding something like that, into like any, especially for an onion gravy, I think that's just a great way to finish it. Treating it like it was a French onion soup as Beaujolais or something like that is really just going to be like, boom. And you put that, into a savory Dutch pancake, a savory Dutch baby, and it's going to be the same as this, but also completely different. And so really, whatever you put in there, the world is your oyster. Just play with it, have fun. It's food. Just if it sounds like it would be good, if your heart's really truly in it, it's going to be amazing.
Caitlin says sprinkled with goat cheese and glazed onions would be amazing.
Ooh, yes, absolutely. Goat cheese, maybe some toasted walnuts and an onion. Oh, yeah, that would be really anything like that you're doing. Why not just have like some fresh herbs? I've got some parsley and chives and oregano that actually overwintered that's growing now. I got a whole room full of more that have sprouted, but I've already got some that's sprouting out there, and something like that. You just chop it up and just make everything done, meat, sauce, whatever, savory, and then just throw a handful of fresh herbs at that, and it's again, it's going to give you that brightness. I always like to finish sauces and dishes with something to give you something that's either going to be that nice fresh brightness to it, or add just another layer of just something like low and dark that's really going to change it into something new.
So Jay, I just gave people your website address at redbarncatering.com. And do you want your email address? Some people are asking, how do we contact Jay?
Yeah, just the letter J period, Miller, Miller, at redbarncatering.com.
I typed it in the chat for people too, but.
Yep, you can also just go to redbarncatering.com, and I've got my info under the in the contact section. And what I'm cooking for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, me and 700 people in the Driftless area, you can always join my Facebook group, Cooking in the Driftless. We have a lot of fun. Just it's what are you making today? It's just this isn't me doing events or anything. This is just here's dinner, here's breakfast, here's a snack, here's a Dutch baby that I'm making as a getting the recipe right for a class that I'm doing. So follow.
I'm part of it, and it's also great. You can ask questions. Like I had all this squash. I'm like, guys, what should I do with this? And people will offer suggestions. So it's a really fun thing. So yes, Cooking in the Driftless. It's on Facebook. Just search for it. It's super inspirational, and people take amazing food pictures. I'm not one of those people, but man, there's some great pictures on there.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten better over the years.
I bet. So we're just about done, but I do want to thank the Mount Horeb Community Foundation, which is who paid for this class, a grant from the Mount Horeb Community Foundation, and the Friends of the Library. So thanks so much to them. Thank you so much, Jay. You're getting rave reviews. I know you can't see them, but everybody's saying we should have you back. So, and I agree, we will have Jay back sometime in the future, and hopefully we can have him in person, which is so that we can taste this, or at least I can taste it. You are all great cooks, and I can see you were baking stuff, which is great.
Well, make sure you send me a copy of the chats and stuff. So when I get home, then Kelly can deal with my ego from all the compliments.
And just don't show her the video so she doesn't know you're at it or out on the scissors.
That's correct. I get my scissors back next time.
That's true. So thank you so much, Jay. Thanks everybody for joining. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and go eat your yummy food.
Great seeing all you guys. See you next time.
Bye.